On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, the PolicyEd YouTube channel says lower inflation by repealing the Jones Act. We better call Sal. Hi, I'm the aforementioned Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So I had this video sent to me by a subscriber, and I thought it was worthy of a Better Call Sal episode, because if you're going to talk about the Jones Act and you're going to post a video that's only a minute and 36 seconds and get 500,000 views, I'm going to bet there's a few things that may not be exactly accurate in that video. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they go out. All right, Better Call Sal. So here's the website, PolicyEd, 43.4 thousand subscribers. And again, this video is over 500,000 views, getting close to 600,000 views. Repeal the Jones Act, offset inflation. Therefore, what they're arguing is that inflation is caused by the Jones Act. Well, this chart over here from the Pew Research Center shows you where inflation is highest and lowest in the world across 44 countries. And you'll see the United States sitting there between 7.5% to 10%, with many countries much higher: Brazil, Chile, Russia, Turkey, Poland, Spain, and a few other ones there. By the way, none of those countries have a Jones Act. And by the way, the Jones Act is the Merchant Marine Act of 1920. Specifically, they're arguing Section 27, which says that to move cargo from one U.S. port to another U.S. port, your ships have to fill four provisions. They have to be U.S. built, U.S. owned, U.S. crewed, and U.S. operated. And therefore, by waiving the Jones Act, you will lower inflation in the United States. It's an interesting argument. Let's go ahead and hear their case.
As politicians look for ways to lower inflation, repealing the Jones Act is a viable option. The Jones Act requires that any ships operating between ports within the U.S. must be constructed in the States.
Okay, not exactly.
And owned and operated by American citizens or permanent residents. That means foreign ships can arrive at U.S. cities, but are prohibited from traveling to another American port without first visiting a foreign port.
Okay, that's wrong. I mean, number one, wrong. Foreign ships come into U.S. ports all the time. They don't have to go to one U.S. port, then immediately leave and go to another foreign port. For example, there are numerous occasions where container ships sail from Asia through the Panama Canal and then will go to 4 U.S. ports in a row. What you're not allowed to do if you're a foreign ship is to stop in a port and pick up cargo and then deliver it to another U.S. port. So, for example, if you stop in Savannah, you can offload in Savannah, you can pick up cargo in Savannah, and if you're a foreign ship and then you go to Norfolk, you can pick up cargo in Norfolk, you can drop off cargo in Norfolk. You just can't drop off cargo that you just picked up in a U.S. port. That is the prohibition here. So this video is not accurate in its depiction. Okay, well, that's number one. Let's keep going.
In practice, it means that Boston gets its natural gas in the winter from foreign suppliers. Historically, even Russia, because there aren't any U.S.-made ships that can transport liquid natural gas.
Okay, so let's stop at this one for a second, because this is a topic I have talked about quite a bit. So I did an entire video, a Better Call Sal video on this, where I talked specifically about LNG shipment to New England. So what they're talking about there, and again, they always pick this one Russian ship. This is 2018. And let's be clear, a lot has been written about this. This is over from AEI, the American Enterprise Institute. Why is LNG coming 4,500 miles to Boston from the Russian Arctic when the U.S. is the #1 natural gas producer? Okay, so they tracked this vessel that came out of the Yamal Peninsula up in northern Russia. It then went into London, offloaded its cargo, and then reloaded cargo back in London, and then sailed to Boston to deliver it. That's what the story is. It was based on a Washington Post story. He has it here in the story. But technically, the cargo wasn't from Russia at that point. Because it had offloaded its cargo, it had reloaded cargo on board. And matter of fact, if you go over to the official reports done by the EIA, this is the Energy Information Administration of the Department of Energy. This is for the year 2018. And in January of 2018, they show that the only cargo imported LNG into the country came from two sources. One, Trinidad and Tobago, and the other from the United Kingdom. That is the source they're talking about here with Russian oil or Russian LNG. So this is the boogeyman argument right here, that we are importing Russian gas into the United States. So they find this ship that went through England, and even the U.S. government reports that that cargo did not come from Russia. Why does New England need the requirement to import LNG? First, the bigger issue here is, why is it the state of New York doesn't allow a pipeline to be cut across its state into New England so that natural gas, not liquefied natural gas, but just natural gas, can be sent into New England? Because the state of New York will not allow that. And again, the reason that New York does this, I don't know. They say it's environmental. I think it has to do with the Red Sox and the Patriots. Again, I think it's all Tom Brady. The other issue here is, why doesn't New England have more stocks of natural gas during the year? They've cut back on storage facilities in New England. Understand, this gets solved with one ship. They want to repeal the entire Jones Act to fix this issue. If you reflag in one ship, if you do a Jones Act waiver for one ship, allow one ship to come in, let it be flagged U.S., crewed U.S., operated by a U.S. company, but foreign built, let's say South Korea. Because again, we didn't start exporting LNG in large numbers until 2016. And we built LNG carriers back in the 70s and 80s, so we can build that vessel. If we reflag in one ship, it solves this problem. It solves it for New England, it solves it for Puerto Rico. Repealing the Jones Act to fix this one thing would be like leaking air from one tire and you throw the entire car out. You can fix this easily without having to repeal the entire Jones Act and jeopardize the American shipping industry. So there are discussions that can be done with that. But again, you know, that doesn't quite cause the stir that this video wants to create. All right, let's keep trucking.
This artificially restrains supply and increases the cost of everything transported by sea. Imagine if individual states only allowed trucks to deliver goods within their borders if they were built and run by their residents. Trade between states would grind to a halt.
Okay, hang on here. So they're talking about trade between states. All right, the argument here isn't trade between Colorado and Texas. The argument here is, okay, let's take the Texas flags off them and let's put Mexican flags, Nicaraguan, Panamanian, Honduras, Jamaica, India, Pakistan, Russia, China on them. Change it that way, because those Texas trucks have to abide by U.S. federal laws. U.S. state laws have to be comparable to each state. This is the difference that they don't want to talk about here. Now assume those trucks were built overseas. They are licensed overseas. They have to meet codes not in the United States, but overseas. And oh, by the way, the truck drivers in them have to abide by not U.S. labor laws, but laws of Mexico, of Philippines, of Cuba, of Indonesia. That's the parallel here. It's not Texas and Colorado. Again, it's all how you spin this. And what this video is trying to do is compare interstate commerce with international commerce. And the problem is, when you put the United States on a level of competing internationally, other companies subsidize their shipping. They pay much less. Minimum wage in this country is not the minimum wage around the world. The lowest minimum wage on a ship that you can pay someone is $21 a day. You can't compete against that. Does a U.S. truck driver want to compete against a Mexican truck driver, a Nicaraguan truck driver, a Filipino truck driver, a Pakistani, an Indian truck driver? Probably not. And that's what the parallel here is, not Texas and Colorado.
And the cost of goods would increase. The Jones Act creates the same problem for goods shipped internationally. Unfortunately, the shipping industry benefits from the law. To prevent the Jones Act from being waived or repealed, they contribute millions of dollars to politicians in both parties.
Okay, so there's lobbyists for different groups. Who is making this video right now? I mean, there's always people on different sides who are interested in monetary issues. There's a lot of money being levied by those who oppose the Jones Act to repeal it. And the real question is, who is doing that? And a lot of it has to do with shipbuilders overseas, shipping companies that want to see it. There are countries out there that have reasons to want to waive this and get into U.S. commerce. The problem is, do we want to open up our ports and our interior of the United States to companies coming in and using offshore laws, offshore wages to compete against Americans, because that's what they're talking about here.
All the while driving up the cost of goods and harming consumers. Repealing the Jones Act would mean faster and cheaper shipping. And
how does it mean faster shipping? Number one, are we buying faster ships? I mean, there's no evidence that you're getting faster ships. And understand, movement of cargo between U.S. ports, that's an issue dealing with ports. And we are very limited in ports. Because of containerization, we have reduced the number of ports that are available to use, which means that, you know, I find it hard to believe that they're using an analogy here of Boston to, let's say, Savannah, Georgia. You know, is it really, it may be cheaper to move it from Boston to Savannah, but is it efficient enough? Because if you think about it, if you're in Boston and you want to ship something out of the port of Boston, you got to take that cargo, you got to load it in a container, you got to drive it down to the port of Boston, you have to offload it into the port, it has to wait for a ship to come in, it has to be loaded on the ship, so that's a cost right there. It then has to sail from that port down to Savannah, which is a couple of days to get down there. It arrives in the port of Savannah. It has to wait to get offloaded. It has to get offloaded, and then a truck has to go pick it up and deliver it to its destination. When you could have just hired a truck in Boston to take it not to the port, but right to where you want in Savannah in less than a day. And that's the competition that you're facing here. That's the issue at play. It's not whether or not you should be moving goods between the two ports.
lower prices for consumers.
It's not lower prices for consumers when you factor in all those elements. Again, it's lower shipping costs on the ship side, but you have to look at the overall port cost, time, reliability, and all those issues, and the availability of ships to do that, because one of the things we see is international ships will go to wherever the market is. And one of the things that the Jones Act does is it commits U.S. vessels to the U.S. trade. It locks them into the U.S. trade so that they can operate in an exclusive environment. Also, those ships are available during emergencies, during natural disasters, and in time of war, something that foreign ships typically are not. All right, well, I guess that was it. A very quick little video, but man, they managed to get quite a few mistakes into it. I counted about 4, I think I had in there in 1 minute and 36 seconds. That's impressive. That's very impressive. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, leave a comment, share it across social media, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and like, and if you like the channel, and help supporting the page. I'm not a big think tank. I am not a lobby group. I don't get money from them. This is me doing this on the side of my teaching gig. So if you want to support the channel, you can do it by going below and hitting the super thanks button. You can contribute directly to the page, or head on over to Patreon and become a patron of the page. You can do it weekly or monthly. Until our next video, this is Sal signing off.